everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and welcome to a series that I did 2 years ago in 2018. Now that it's 2020, I want to go through it again, and that's going through the Board Game Geek Top 100 Games of All Time. Board Game Geek, as you can see the web page here, Board Game Geek is the top-rated website, the most visited website about board games there is on the internet. And people go in there and rank games. And so what I like to do is take a look at the top 100. I played 97 of them, I think, and tell you my thoughts on them. I also will talk about how they've changed in the past 2 years. This is going to be an 11-video series. I'm going to go over 10 videos in each one. And on the 11th video, I'm going to talk about the games that fell off the top 100 since last time. But we're going to get started here with number 100. So this is Star Realms. So Star Realms last time was 81. So it's dropped a bit, but Star Realms is a deck building style game. Now what's neat about Star Realms is the fact that it's so portable. It has this nice little artwork here as you go through and you're just playing. It's best as a two-player game, but you can play with more players. And this one really hit well. I'm actually a little surprised that this one is on the top 100 because this is akin to a gateway deck building game of sorts, and I feel like gateway games don't do as well in the Board Game Geek. They show up with a bang and then they slowly slide off. In fact, some of the most popular games that are out there, like Catan and Ticket to Ride, you're not going to see these in the Board Game Geek Top 100. So the fact that this one's here is cool. Say goodbye. You're not going to see it in 2 years when I do this list again. But be that as it may. Number 99 is a new one to the list. It's not new. It came out in 2016, but it's slowly building up. You'll notice that this one here has 7,200 ratings, which is few comparatively to many of the games that are on there. And so Lorenzo Il Magnifico does not look that exciting. You look at this, this is not showing an exciting looking game here. But as we go through, you'll notice those dice down here. And these dice are pretty important. The black, the white, and the orange dice. Those are going to be rolled, and then each person has a worker that matches those. This is a very strategic game. It is a game that I like quite a bit. I'm a big fan of this one, despite the extremely boring cover and despite the almost lack of a theme. So again, anything in the 90s, I don't know if it will be there in 2 years, but I think this one is a strong contender, and it may move up higher. We'll have to wait and see. Now, the very opposite of a straight-up Euro game is number 98, and that's Descent: Journeys in the Dark, 2nd edition. Okay. Well, this one last time was 69, so this one's fallen a bit, but that's partially because there is the very ever-present Gloomhaven dungeon crawl, but also many, many dungeon crawls are being released, in my opinion, it feels like weekly at this point. Descent, the fact that Descent still manages to hold its own, and this was the 2nd edition, so there was the Descent is essentially the 3rd in a line of 4 games. First was Doom, then Descent, and then Descent 2nd edition, and then Imperial Assault, the Star Wars version. And they got better with each incarnation. And in fact, the Sadler brothers, who are going off and doing their own company now and working with games, they were instrumental in putting this one together. But it has all these puzzle pieces together to make your dungeon rooms, and you'd go through and fight a variety of monsters using various heroes. And it just feels like a dungeon crawl. Nowadays, dungeon crawls tend to feel like puzzles. This one still has the idea of chucking dice and is a lot of fun. All right, you done with dungeons? Let's jump back to Alchemists. Alchemist here is number 97. It was 74 last time. And Alchemist is kind of an interesting game because it's one of the first games that used an app that it came with as you're trying to figure out the right combinations of ingredients to make things. So there's a bit of deduction involved, but then there's also worker placement, as you can see here. Now, Alchemist is from CGE Games, and they make fairly complex games, Dungeon Lords and Dungeon Pets, games like that. I don't know why the rest of it escaped me. But this game here, you can see here, this is a full-fledged game, and you have this one thing on the side where you're going to be using this to kind of deduce what ingredients are there, because you'll use your app to scan the ingredients, and it will give you, kind of a sign as to whether that's in the formulas that you're trying to build or not. And there's a lot going on in this one, but I think it's going to fade off because deduction games are becoming more and more popular. This one's fairly complicated. Worker placement games are pretty popular, but this one's pretty complicated, and you have to be kind of a special sort of person, I think, to like both. All right, now, I expect most games to slowly fade off this list. That's just how things work. But sometimes games have pretty big drops, especially in the last 2 years. And the two biggest drops happened both here in the 90s. The first one here is Time Stories. Time Stories, which is 96 now. When I did it last time, it was number 38. That is a huge swing. In Time Stories, this was a game that allowed you to put modules in and you would play through it. In the original one here, you were helping these, you were taking these modules of Insane Asylum and trying to go through. This is the base game that you're looking at here, the board, and then you would go back in time and play through these scenarios, in this case, the Insane Asylum, but there was, I think, 11 or 12 scenarios in total, and you would go back in time and then you would try to solve a mystery, but eventually you'd run out of time and go through and do it again. Now, the first one here in Time Stories was a slam dunk. This module worked really well. It was a lot of fun. It was mysterious, and it hinted at a big overarching story. As time went by, there were good modules, there were not so good modules, and this one has definitely fallen off people's radar. I will say that the escape room games, I think, are the death knell, because those provide, the people who like the puzzles of Time Stories have moved on, and there are also good storytelling games that are out there too. So I fully expect this one to fall off the list by next time. It has fallen even farther on my own personal list. Stone Age. Stone Age here is, let's see, it was 95. Last time it was 72. Now, Stone Age is pretty akin to a gateway game. In this game, you're going to be chucking dice. That's a pretty cool picture of dice in the cup. Thanks. Let's take a look at the game itself. In this game, you're going to be, okay, I'm finding a bunch of pictures here that are more of classy-looking pictures. But let's find, there we go. Oh, come on now. There we go. There's the game. And in this game, you're placing your workers in different areas and then rolling dice, dividing it by the number of workers that you have there, or dividing the number of workers you have there by a certain number that you're trying to get on these dice. It's a really fascinating resource collection game that you then use to basically pay these resources to get cards and build different buildings. It's very straightforward. And yet, I find myself really enjoying it. They just came out with an anniversary edition of it, and it is a lot of fun. Will this be on the list next time? I don't know. Possibly with the new edition. We'll see. This one makes people sad. Forbidden Stars. This is number 94. Last time it was 77. Now, Forbidden Stars is basically the part of Warhammer 40K that you never see. You usually see the big ground battles. This is the whole thing as you fly space fleets around. And it came with a ton of miniatures, and it came with a little of a deck building aspect. And in fact, this was a direct successor to StarCraft. And so there's just a lot of pieces. And in fact, oddly enough, of all these dudes on a map style games, this was one that actually worked really well with two players. Many of them do not. Now, why will this one fall off the list, and why has it fallen? Very simple. The fact it's not available anymore. Games Workshop and Fantasy Flight, who made the game, have parted ways, and so you're not really going to see, unless some miracle happens, this game come back in. I would not be surprised if Fantasy Flight at some point announces this game kind of sort of again, but with the different theme, maybe with their Twilight Imperium theme. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up. Don't quote me on that. But well, it was a lot of fun, and well, if you ever come across a copy, check it out. I mentioned two drops. One was Time Stories. This is the other one, Dead of Winter. This was 54 last time and is now 93. Now, Dead of Winter, which is essentially The Walking Dead, the board game, including our own Drunken Santa, who is apparently running away from a bunch of zombies there. But in this game, you are working together with a bunch of other people, you hope, to try to survive. This game, when it came out to extremely high critical praise. Came with a really cool crossroads system where you would read a card, or you look at a card, and someone would take their turn, and if they triggered that card somehow, you would say it and they'd make a choice. Really cool idea. Still waiting to see this idea kind of really bloom and blossom in other games. But I imagine someday we'll look back and go, it all started with Dead of Winter. This game, each person has their own personal agenda, which makes people look like traitors even when they're not. It is fairly complex for this kind of game, and there's a lot of social deduction games, which makes me think that's also knocking this down. When Dead of Winter came out, there was not the 10,000 different deduction games that are out there, but there you have it. Alrighty, now we are moving to 92. This is 92 is Champions of Midgard. This is interesting because on my list here, which I printed out last night, Champions of Midgard was 91. And it switched with 92 overnight, so go figure. And in fact, keep that in mind as I go through this series. I'm recording this probably a week before it airs, so anything can happen and change. Interesting. Anyway, Champions of Midgard, which is a lot of fun to play. This is from Gray Fox Games, and it's a worker placement, but it uses dice, as shown in the picture there. And these dice are going to be placed to fight monsters. You'll roll the dice, so you're trying to buy the best selection of dice to go out and fight. Now, this one does especially well with the expansions. There's some 2 great expansions for it. I love this game. You can see the Seal of Excellence in the box right there. I think Champions of Midgard is fantastic. I like the Viking theme of it, the lore, the Viking lore style theme of it. I like the worker placements. I like the dice. This is just a fantastic game. And then 91, so this one's interesting. It was 92 moving up. This one's going to continue to move up. Both Champions of Midgard and Quacks of Quedlinburg were not on the list 2 years ago. Quacks, I almost guarantee you this one will move up 10 or more spots. It's becoming more and more popular as time goes by. If for nothing else, down here, this Geek Up Bit set, people who go to Board Game Geek keep upgrading this set there. But Quacks of Quedlinburg has you pulling tokens from a bag and pushing your luck. That is pretty much the short of the game, and yet that little thing just has people thrilled about it. You reach into these bags, you pull out tokens, you're going to place them in this circle here. You can see this person's protecting their tokens with these little coin counters. This is the one flaw of the game, is that the components are not good comparatively to other games. And they're pulled from the bag so much that almost everyone on Board Game Geek is finding some way to protect them. But you have a chance to bust. If you pull too many white tokens to make your total go over 7, you will bust. And then you get to buy new tokens, and every game is different because what the tokens do has a different feel to it. And it is, I've had almost 100% success rate teaching this to people, and I've taught it a lot over the past year. So I'm really not surprised to see this one on the list, and I fully expect it to go higher as time goes by. So there you go, folks. That is 91 to 100 of the top games on Board Game Geek. I'm always very thankful to the folks there for having all this fantastic data that we can go through and check out. Of these 10, I've played all 10 of them. And while some of them have fallen down for me, Time Stories and Dead of Winter are not as thrilling for me as they once were, I would say that I do enjoy all 10 of the games on this list. That will not always be the case. You'll see as time goes by. Check out this. We'll be doing all 10 of these. They'll be coming out in the Dice Tower all this week. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching me go through the top 100 games on Board Game Geek.